There we go. Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Sunday gathering. There is no tithe required for being here, and I'm glad you're here today. Thank you for joining me. And I just want to say I'm really glad I went and got this cup of coffee. Really glad. And that's because I went out to the kitchen and realized that I had started a batch of cinnamon rolls, and they were in the oven, and I forgot about them. And so if I had not gone in there, we would have some stinky stuff happening. I would have had to run out of here. Oh well. We did it. We got them out. We're good. I hope you guys are doing great this morning. I hope you are. I hope you had a good week. And I'm glad to be back after 2 weeks. Sorry about last week. That'll happen quite a bit probably this springtime. And I'll see what I can do about that. If it's maybe just doing it at a different time in the day when that happens, or another day, I may just go ahead and do that. So if you want to stay on top of that, make sure you're subscribed and get alerts or whatever it is that helps you get the notifications, because there will probably be some Sundays where I have to do it at a different time or on a different day. So I just want to let you know that. My apologies for being out last week. I've got a few of y'all's questions. Let's see. I got that. God is kind. Got your question there. So I think I have all the questions. I got one from Christine Yu, and from Christian, and from Looking Up for Him Pilgrim, and Ed Mack, and God is Kind so far. So that's the ones I've got. If I didn't call your name and you put a question out, let me know. Deborah Hicks, I see your question. Good morning to all you guys, by the way. Good morning, good morning. G Squat, I got your question. I think I will, G Squat, I'll just answer you real quick on that, because I won't be able to talk much about it. I have seen the whole moon map thing. I feel like it's a completely inconclusive topic. Like, I can't come to any decision on that. It seems like an interesting, wild speculation, but as far as knowing whether or not that means anything about our Earth, I don't know. So it's to me just something that I have filed in my file cabinet, and maybe we'll know more one day. I will say, though, that it's interesting. Before I ever heard of, for instance, E. Waranon or any of those people that talk about that, I looked up at the moon one day, just, way before I had heard anything about that. And I thought, what if what I'm seeing is a reflection of something? I really did. I thought, what if the structure we see there is actually a reflection of something on Earth? And then you have people come out saying that it is a map of the Earth. And so I don't know. No way to prove it or disprove it for me right now. Yeah, G Squat, you can certainly send me anything you want in email. Yeah. Send it to me. Terry Barnes, I see your question. I will say, just Terry, I'll probably not take that up as a topic to discuss, because I don't know if there's any songs that were omitted of King David's. I haven't run across any writings. There is in the Deuterocanon, I believe there's a book called the Wisdom, and I believe that might have something to do with King David, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time since I read that book. But that's a possibility. But we really just have the Psalms that I know of. Oh, Emma Coombs, I'm sorry to hear that. We've been praying for that, and I'm very sorry. I hope it was peaceful in a way, or somehow. we'll remember you and the family and everybody else this week in our prayers. Thank you for mentioning that, Emma. All right. Got yours, Patriot Keto Pop. These are coming fast, so I'm trying to try and make sure I don't miss them. All right. RLB, you say you're reading wisdom? Yeah, and I may be wrong. It may have nothing to do with King David. Yeah. So I just don't honestly remember. That just came to mind as the only thing I can think of that might even be related. Thank you, G Squat. Appreciate it. All right. All right. I think I've got all the questions that have been asked, guys. So I think I've got about 7 questions, but some of them are going to be short. So if you have any more, I might be able to take 1 or 2 more. Mike Jones, you give me a question here. Let's see. What happens when we die? That's a good question. I'll talk about that, Mike. It's a really hard one. But I'll talk about it. I'll tell you why it's hard. Squiffy Bear, I see I see yours right there. It's good to see you this morning. Hope you're doing well. Terry Barnes, you said you heard a rumor that David wrote songs that included casting out of demons. Ooh, interesting. I haven't heard that. I mean, of course, there's a ton of stuff about Solomon and demons, but I haven't heard anything about David and demons, so that would be interesting to me. MK Ryan, I see your question. Okay. All right, so we've got a bunch now. I probably can't take any more questions at this point. We've got a lot, so let's chat briefly about this week and what I've been looking at, and I'll give you kind of the announcements. Just to start off with, for anyone that's new here to the live stream, I hope that I appreciate you being here. You're very welcome to be here. Anyone is welcome. I always try to make that clear that the whole point of what we do here is to discuss and grow. And I try to bring my experience to the table and just answer the questions as I know with the experience and the information I've got. And I hope that you can participate in the chat. That's really what this is all about. We work together, we talk, a lot of us know each other. And so I hope we can work together in that sense. And even if you disagree, you're welcome to post what you've got in the chat. However, as long as it's not attacking anyone and it's not like spam, like too much that we can't all participate and enjoy. So keep it like that and we'll be fine. There will be no problems. Just to kind of share with you more of what I do. Let me see here if I can get this all organized. All right. So I have this website, and the address is at the top left of your screen, but it's bible-scribe.com. I've been doing this for about 5 years or so. I probably need to check up on that. It might be more. But this website will be the hub of everything you can find out about me or what I'm doing, working on, etc. You notice I do try to keep my live streams announced here on the homepage. And you'll notice that I have a link right here at the top to the Bible application. So if we click that, that takes me to an application that I have developed. I've been working on it for years. And a lot of you have already started using it. and I will be using it probably during this live stream. It's the foundation of much of my research. So what it is a tool that has a bunch of ancient writings all together in it. So whereas most sites will only have the Bible, or they'll only have one or two other writings, or they'll have a lot of writings but you can't really search them, this one is very simple to just search all codexes for instance the word heaven, and you'll immediately get results in every one of these writings about heaven, for instance, and be able to look down through them. This is something that I have not found anywhere else online. So I developed this tool from my research, and it is available to you. You can go and you can register here for this tool to become a member. Now, full membership I do ask that you pay for that, and it is $10 a month. And so if you go to the registration, it's very simple to do. If you go to register, it explains that this will set you up as a guest. And when you register, it will tell you that to finalize your membership, and it talks about it here on the registration page, that you can go to my link at GiveSendGo, and you can simply either subscribe for $10 a month, or you can just do $10 even and get 1 month's worth, or you can give any amount, and I will simply divide it up $10 at a time and add that many months to your membership. So it's easy to do, and I really hope that some of you do use this enough to where you want to subscribe, and that it becomes a valuable piece of your research, because it has been invaluable to me. You see that over the years I've built an entire Bible YouTube channel on the research that I'm able to do with this tool. So if you want to support me, if you desire that, it's not required at all, but it's a great thing if you will support me by doing that. All right, so other than that, on the website, I also have another channel called SciCry. It's on multiple platforms, including Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, and Telegram. And as you can see, BibleScribe is on all these platforms as well. The SciCry channel is more of a kind of my exploration of other topics outside the scriptures, current events, politics, conspiracy, all that kind of stuff is in there. I did this week do a revamped video. I didn't publish it yet, but it's a revamp. I published it on the platforms. I didn't update the website yet. It's a revamp of this video called Who is Godzilla versus Kong? I revamped it for a specific reason, and that's because I'm about to do the 4th video in this Godzilla series, and that of course will be on the 4th Godzilla movie, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. If you know anything about the series and what I've done with it, I've kind of exposed a hidden undercurrent of disclosure, if you will, about a timeline and what's happening in our current time. So I'm working on that, just so you're aware. Should be coming out quite soon. Other than that, just know that the website has pretty much every single thing that I've done. It links to all my live streams. You can see most recent updates at the top. You can scroll down. What I feel is one of my crowning achievements is this documentary series called The Cataclysm of Rome. So I put that front and center so you can get at it. And then a few of my other favorite videos that I think people will enjoy. But you can search through everything I've done. It should make it pretty easy to find things if you're looking. All right, so I think that's it about what I do here and what we're doing today. Just to let you know kind of what my week looked like as far as what I'm studying. Let me see. I've got a post-it note here with a bunch of videos that I'm working on. I kind of like over the new year, there was this weird thing that happened where I kind of lost track of everything that I was looking at. And I just, for some reason, I don't know if God did it, but he kind of cleaned my slate. So I have a list here in front of me. I've been studying really heavily the Sibylline oracles and the prophecies in them, because you guys know probably that I've used those as some of the information that, has pushed my view of what end times prophecy is all about. But I'm studying them further now. I'm studying them more thoroughly, and matching up different events to different things. And so that's going to be interesting. I think there will be a video on that very soon. I have planned a video on disclosure, and this is related to the UFO phenomenon and what many people call aliens. There's a video coming on that soon. I mentioned the Godzilla movie, the fourth movie of Godzilla. That's going to be in a video soon on the Sci-Cry channel. I'm studying heavily Deuteronomy 32. If you know anything about this chapter, Deuteronomy 32 is the Song of Moses. And I think it has some striking implications if we take it at face value. I don't think many people read this and really think about what it's saying about Israel, about the Israeli people, and what was going to happen to them. Okay, so that's going to be a really interesting video. And then I have another planned video on the Sci-Cry channel. So just so you're aware, I'm studying all that stuff, and that's what I've been looking at this week. Oh, goodness. Oh, good morning, LG. It's good to see you, ma'am. I've missed you. I need to talk with you. I need to catch up with you. I hope you're doing good. Austin Blaze, you ask about Gunnar Heinsohn. Yes, I have looked at Gunnar Heinsohn's research. There's not much you can look at because he, of course, all his material is in German. But what is available online that's in English, I think I have seen most of it. All right. All right, guys. Well, I think what we'll do then is... Oh, Red Raven, you ask about the Bible Scribe tool, the application. Does it provide a definition if you highlight a word like Selah? Yeah, no, it doesn't do definitions. So I do need to talk a little bit more about some updates that I've made to this thing. I forgot about that, actually. So let me do that real briefly. Because they're really big. They're really big. Okay, so the latest updates page, by the way, is at the bottom. And at the bottom of the screen, there's a link for it. So what I have done recently is a few different things. I added the book, The Apocalypse of Elijah, to the tool completely. Okay, so the Apocalypse of Elijah is now in the tool. I looked into this writing because someone on the channel told me, and I thought this is really good. And according to the scholars, it's a really early writing. They don't know for sure. They think it's 2nd or 3rd century. But the reality with some of these writings is that because they just don't know, it could be older, you know. And that one had a lot of authority, in my opinion. I added it right away to the tool. I added a public discussion on all the different things on the site, so you can do, you know, when you're a member, you can take notes for yourself, or even if you're a guest, you can take notes for yourself. Those are private, but a discussion is public, and I note that very plainly on the thing. So that gives people the ability to just publicly put things on different writings, books, verses, etc. Few different little things. I added this pricing page just to show you what's the difference between a guest and a member account. That's here nor there. This is one of the big ones, okay? So I added what I call a story page, and this is for members. So if you're a member, you can see in your navigation at the top, you see stories. And if you click that, it shows you what stories I have added. So you've got Gog and Magog, you've got the Great White Throne Judgment, you have Heaven and the Vision of Abraham at this point. These are only the ones that I've just added up to this point. I plan on adding more. But if you click, for instance, Gog and Magog, what you're going to get is every reference that I know of in all of these writings to Gog and Magog at once. So you can go and read first the descendancy of the man Magog, that was the son of Japheth. Then you can look at the inheritance of the land that Magog inherited. Then the prophecies of judgment on Gog and Magog in Ezekiel. Then in Revelation, of course, the battle of Gog and Magog. And then in the Sibylline oracles, the different woes that were spoken against Gog and Magog. Now you can see what some of the things that I've found. every single place in these writings that talks about that specific thing. And you can switch your story up at the top and go to a different one. I sent this one on heaven to a family member recently when one of their relatives passed away, because they wanted to know all about heaven. So I sent this story to them. But anyway, so that's, to me, a really super thing for you guys if you want to read through that. But this is a members only feature. It's not available for guests. And then the other thing I will say, let's see, this is the other thing I added. Let's see if this is the verse that has it. Locations. So if you're on a verse and it has a place in it, it may also have a location defined. So in this case, Numbers 21:10 says, the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Oboth. Well, if you wanted to know where Oboth is, I have this link for that location now. I don't have all the locations in there, but I'm starting to build them out. So you can click Oboth and look what it does. It takes you straight to that point on the map in Google Maps. So now I know exactly where Oboth is, just west of the Dead Sea. And this is where Oboth was supposedly, the location Oboth. Now that's actually the location. Oboth is mentioned in the Bible, and it's mentioned in Jasher. So as I go through some of this stuff, and again, this is the type of thing that your membership is helping me to do. Your membership, the support of the money, the financial support will help me work more and more on this. I would really love it if this became, really what my entire focus is, as far as, my work. I would love to work on this day in, day out, and make it better and better. This type of thing just doesn't exist anywhere. So anyway, these are the types of things I've added recently. So to answer your question about that, I hope this is helpful. But no, I don't have on the words. I don't have definitions of words. I'm kind of trying to, I don't know that I will end up adding that. It may be something in the future that I can get to. It's a very more complicated thing to add to the tool. And I've focused so heavily on getting these writings in and making sure they all are cohesive and fit together and cross-reference each other. That's really been the focus of the tool. And so I don't know how quickly I would ever be able to get that done. So I don't know, but it's a good question. Something for me to think about, definitely to think about. I try to fill in that gap. Like if there's severe problems, like with the translation of a verse, oftentimes, for instance, in Genesis 1:1, I will provide, as you can see, this has a lot of these little bubbles at the side. One of them says alt. That means there's an alternate reading on that verse. And so for Genesis 1:1, I offered this alternate reading. I called this one the Bible Scribe literal reading, saying, at the first, or primary, Elohim formed the land and the sky. Okay? So I try to get around the having every single word defined with that kind of thing. So anyway, again, if my time grows to where I can spend more time on this, then I will build more of that out. That's the whole point. So anyway, yeah, Red Raven, absolutely. The locations are I thought that was really cool, and I want to get more of those in there. That's the kind of thing like I try to get to on a Saturday afternoon when I'm just chilling, and I'm like, I don't want to think too hard, but I can get all those locations put in there. So anyway, all right. Well, I didn't go through all y'all's names. I used to kind of call out everybody and say good morning to every single person. It's funny. I found out that one person, when I did that a while back, one person was upset because they didn't want me calling their name on a live stream. And I realized that sometimes in Google, it's hard to tell what your avatar anchor is. And so some people don't realize it's their real name and they don't want me saying it online. So I thought that was funny. But so I don't know if I want to say too many. I don't want to get in trouble. All right. Well, guys, let's go ahead and start thinking about a quick prayer here before we get started. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and put any prayer requests you've got in the chat. Emma Coombs will be praying for you and everyone surrounding Brendan and that whole situation. We're very sorry to hear that he passed. But please go ahead and put any other prayer requests in the chat, and I'll pick those up. But I'm going to go ahead and bow my head and pray for our time here this morning. Thank you guys for joining. God in heaven, we thank you so much for this day and this time to be together. I thank you for just putting me in the position to be able to do this for everybody. Thank you for what we can get out of it. Please help us to stay humble and continue learning. Lord, we just want to know more so we can be closer to you. We thank you so much for the opportunity. Guide me as I speak and help me to be clear of mind and be able to speak clearly. We just give you this day, Lord. We thank you so much for all the good things in our lives. And it's in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. All right, guys. All right, Michelle, I've got your request. Let me make sure I get these guys before we get moving on. Okay, Life Station Linda, I got yours. And G Squat, we'll definitely pray for her. Oh man, you know what's funny about the appendix thing? Oh my gosh, I had a friend once that I worked with, and he started complaining of a stomach ache, and it was like for a week or two he was complaining of the stomach ache, and he started getting real sick, and he didn't know what was going on. And he started to get like pale and pasty looking, and we were like, dude, you are not good, you need to go to the doctor. And sure enough, his appendix had slowly burst, and he had been going with a burst appendix in his stomach for like 2 weeks before he finally went to the doctor. I was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Thankfully he was fine, but thankfully G Squat, they're pretty good at taking care of that. I hope she's okay. I think she'll be fine. All right, I think I've got all those. Oh, G Squat, you said she waited a long time too. Yeah. That's crazy. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and start. Let's see. What have we got? I got to get these topics kind of organized. Let's see if there's any organization that makes sense here. I put a couple short ones at the top. All right. Oh, I love this one by Ed Mack. Your question on the 666. I love it. That's going to be a good one. Squiffy Bear. Let's see. We've got a few good ones here. All right. Okay. I think we will go with this. So let's do this one first. This is from Looking Up for Him Pilgrim. And your question, sir, was, or ma'am, I guess that's a sir or a ma'am. Frequency for healing such as rifing, healing via sound, etc. What do I think about it? So I think this will be a quick one, but I would like to talk about that briefly. You know, there's a lot of stuff online. You'll see posts about cymatics, which is when, for instance, people will put a bunch of sand across a vibratory surface like a drum head or something, and they'll run frequencies through it, and it makes the sand go in the shape of the frequency that's being produced through that surface, right? So it goes to all of these interesting pattern shapes that are very symmetrical, and it's because, of course, those frequencies have they do different things, and it is something I think that overall science has ignored mainstream science, the science that we're fed when we go through schools, definitely been ignored over the years. I think one of the most interesting things is when you see people compare those cymatics photos. Let me see if I can find one real quick to show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, so if you just type cymatics and you do a search, you'll find all sorts of these things. And this is what I'm talking about, So they have a plate and they'll put sand on top of it and then run a sound frequency through, against that plate, essentially play like a speaker underneath it. And it puts the shape into the sand that's bouncing around on the top. And you'll get all these cool shapes. And one thing that I saw that I think is really cool is that some of these shapes look exactly like some of the patterns in stained glass windows, for instance. Some of the stained glass windows you see in some of these cathedrals in olden times, like for instance this, you wonder if there is some kind of correlation between the two. Like, could they have used some sort of cymatics to build the structure of the frame for that window, and then they put the glass in that shape? Who knows? It could be. So I think that it's just something that needs to be taken up by more people, more scientists, more explorers, more researchers outside of mainstream science. And we have so many things like that really we need to happen. We need to happen for humanity's sake. We just need, we need some of the people that control our science to get out of the way so that we can explore these things. Because right now, I guess my answer to you looking up for him, Pilgrim, is that I don't know really much about what can all be done with frequencies of sound, but my speculation is that a lot, probably. And I do believe there has been some people, and I don't have all the information with me, I think there are some people over the years, decades, maybe centuries, that have tried different things with sound frequency and healing for the body. Now, mainly that healing seems to be a very general holistic healing for the whole body, not necessarily like pinpointing a disease or something, but instead generally that certain frequencies are better for the body than others. And we know that's true because actually if you know the work of Nikola Tesla, you will read about that there were experiments done during his time. I think he did some of them with really low frequency radio waves, for instance, and that when using that frequency, those really low frequencies, it really hurt animals in the area, because he had, of course, he had that tower, and I'm not going to remember the name of the tower he built to test some of these things. But in the area where he had that tower, all the animals in the area, the forest creatures or whatever, they would all scatter because they didn't like that low frequency waves coming into them. It apparently was very bad for their bodies. I think there was some that just died, and so they found that out. But so there is absolutely a correlation between frequencies. Radio frequencies or probably sound frequencies is generally, I believe, probably similar in some regard. So I believe there are probably good ones for us and there are probably bad ones for us. So it seems like most of the bad ones are low frequency, but then we get into talking about like super high frequencies like 5G, those kinds of things. Definitely not good. Definitely not good. So I think that, yes, there's something to all of it looking up for him, Pilgrim. And I hope that in the future our scientists are freed up to discover the realities of that and to be able to deliver useful, pragmatic solutions based on those technologies. It seems like people in the past perhaps had some of those solutions and they were free to use them. Well, we're not free to do that. So that's what it's all about, is if we can free up our society, our scientists, and all the people that could be exploring this stuff, if we could free them up enough to find out, then we would know. And I think we will, actually. I feel like it's going to start happening in the near future. Christina Schenk, you ask, does the Bible say that we have the power to heal as the disciples did? Or do I think this is a mistranslation or doesn't apply now? Well, Christina, I think I've waffled on this a little bit, but I felt like the healing that God specifically gave the power to the disciples, saying, you will go and you will heal, and I'll let you do all these things. You will do greater things than me. Well, he was speaking to the disciples when he said that. And so, Christina, I have waffled a little bit on this, but I do feel that the time period when Christ said that and the first few centuries of the church's growth, which is where we see the accounts, we see even church fathers and early Christian writers talking about those things happening. It seems like that was the period in which God was growing the kingdom, and Jesus was reigning on the throne. And not that he's not reigning anymore, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that was such a special time period. There were so many amazing, I just can't even get across how many amazing things happened with cataclysmic events, the martyrs and the Christians, miraculous things happening with them, and all stuff based on the movement of the Holy Spirit in the world and doing things. I think what I see today is more of that God can heal and does heal, and he will do it at a request of a Christian. And I tend to feel more now that it's not such an intrinsic part of the Christian walk today as it was then. Because then it seemed to be something that was very regular and expected as part of the Christian's activity and behavior. So, and that's really early, like the century after Christ appeared, right? So I hope that helps. All right. So let's do this. Go on to the next one. And it was Patriot Keto Pop. You asked this. You said, are we supposed to pray kneeling? And are we not supposed to pray standing or any other way? Are we supposed to kneel? And I know what I would say to that, but I'm trying to think if maybe we should look and see if the Bible says anything additional on this. So let me see about that. In the Bible here, let's see. Kneel. And some people, when they came to Christ and asked him to do things, they kneeled to him. Of course, he was the king and is the king, so that makes sense. Luke 22:41 is interesting. So Jesus came out and he went to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And he was at the place. He said to them, pray that you enter not into temptation. And he went away from them about a stone's throw, and he kneeled down and prayed to the Father. So Christ gave an example of kneeling to the Father when he prayed. I will say that. It seems like I can't remember. I can't remember offhand any time in the scriptures when Christ did not kneel and prayed. Although it seems like when he broke the bread and the fishes, perhaps he may have said something to the Father at that point, but I don't remember him kneeling at that point. Let's see. Let's see if there's any others here that are significant. Peter in Acts chapter 9. Peter put them all forth and kneeled down and prayed. Turning him to the body, said, Tabitha, rise, and she opened her eyes. So Peter kneeled before he prayed for Tabitha, and she was resurrected. It's interesting. And Acts chapter 20. I guess this is Paul. It says it's Paul, I think. He kneeled down and prayed. So I don't remember seeing anything. I don't remember anything in the Bible that is instructing you to kneel. Excuse me. Yeah, the word prostrate is not in there. So that would be another way to say it. So I don't know. I feel like that is that's an interesting question, Patriot Keto Pop. But I'll just say that I personally pray all the time, and I feel like I keep an open conversation sort of with God. And so that's happening when I'm sitting here at my desk. It's happening when I'm walking around sometimes, or when I'm in my car. And I feel like I'm very close to God, and I get answers from him a lot. So I would just say to that I, first of all, not seeing any specific instructions in the Bible that say you must kneel or you need to kneel for your prayers to be heard or anything like that. We don't see that. But Christ giving us the example of kneeling before his own Father when he prayed, I think we could follow that example, and that might be the best thing to do. If we think about it, we should go ahead and kneel and pray to him. Now, I wouldn't do that necessarily in a public setting, because of course Christ talked about keeping your prayers private, in your secret place, as he said. So to me, and I think when he did say that, I think he did say, let's see, if I'm not mistaken, that's not how it's said. Doggone it. Sometimes it's hard to find. Yeah, Matthew 6, verse 6. When you pray, don't be as the hypocrites. They love to pray in the synagogues and in the corner of the streets with a megaphone. They have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your closet. And when you shut the door, pray to your Father in secret. See, he doesn't say anything about, he doesn't say you have to kneel necessarily. But I think the implication is that you would kneel at that point. I think that's the implication here. I mean, I don't know about your closet, but I don't think I could really stand in my closet and be very comfortable. There's stuff everywhere. Maybe kneeling would be better. So anyway, I guess that's the best I can do, Patriot Keto Pop. If you feel like, I think if you feel like you should kneel when you pray, I think you should definitely kneel and pray. And I don't think there's any problem with not kneeling, but I think what it does is, there's something about being intentional when you pray. So I think it's a good practice, and I probably am talking to myself as much as anybody here. It's probably a good practice for you to when you want to pray about something, to make it intentional. To maybe go into your bedroom or somewhere that's a little private, kneel down, and just spend 10 minutes praying to God, specifically and intentionally. It's more reverent, right? And it gives God more reverence than we probably usually give him. And it's also a sign of course, it's a sign of reverence and admiration and acknowledgement that he is your superior, right? He's obviously your superior, but in doing that and humbling yourself, I think there's a statement being made there. So I think it's a good practice, for sure. Susan O, you're correct there. It sounds like you're saying the same thing. AI Rap Legends, you say you talk to God like he's a real person. Jesus made that able to happen. Well, I agree. I agree with you in that. Like, I don't think we should feel, there should be no barrier between us and talking to God. So I agree somewhat with what you're saying there. And I think it's important to also recognize the majesty of the being whom you are talking to. He is as close as a brother. I guess that's really Christ, is as close as a brother. But the Father is the Most High God. He is the Most High being of all beings everywhere. He breathes out spirits when he creates them. He has formed the cosmos by his hands. And so I think that making sure you realize and acknowledge who he is important. Whether you're just praying in your car or you're kneeling, I just think it as long as we don't lose sight of how majestic he is, how big and amazing he is. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we'll go on to the next one then. Let's see here. Christine Yu. Oh, this is a tough one, Christine. You're gonna get me banned. Why you gonna do this? Why you gotta be this way? Modern Judaism and Zionism. All right. So you kind of were like, I guess, Christine, you kind of were asking what maybe is the difference between modern Zionism versus ancient Judaism, perhaps. Yeah, use code words. So far I haven't had to do that. I think because of the way we do this and this just discussion, I usually don't get into any trouble with what I say. I don't know how that works. Maybe God's got his hand on us. I don't know. Sometimes I just get mad about the whole thing. I just don't care. I just say whatever I want and just see what happens, kind of thing. Anyway. So Zionism, I think that the way I might say this is that Zionism is literally a political movement. It's not a religion. Zionism is, and I think that helps us understand it better, because there are some people who are Zionists who they don't give a rip about God. They just want Israel to rule, okay? They want them to rule from Jerusalem, essentially. And so the modern Zionists are really, they could be very religious in a sense, and maybe Orthodox, if you will, in their Judaism, but that really has nothing to do with their Zionism. And I think some of the people that are Zionists, they want Zionism for reasons other than the religious aspects. They want Zionism for control. They want Zionism to be a part of that control structure. They don't care anything about the law of the Jews or God or any of it. They don't care. And some of the Zionists will use Judaism, they will use the Talmud, they will use Kabbalah, they will use anything they can use to get what they want. And that's all it's about. And it is about nothing more. And so we have to realize that when you say Zionist, that could run the gamut from someone who is totally agnostic or atheist, but simply wants Zionism, wants Israel to rule, all the way to an Orthodox, Talmudic, Hasidic Jew. And so, yeah, there's just this huge wide array. Now, I want to say this, if you're talking about ancient Judaism, like, let's take the Judaism of the Israelites in the wilderness, or, after they left Egypt, or even later than that, when they had first built Solomon's temple, right? Before they were dispersed, before they went to Babylon. But the Jews, even of that time, if you take that Judaism and you compare it to modern day, really, I don't think that you're going to have any groups of Jews from today that match that kind of Judaism. That's my personal opinion. But it just doesn't seem to be the case. It seems that all these groups of modern day Jews and Zionists are secularized. They are, in many cases, almost atheistic. They're very materialistic. They have no understanding or knowledge or care about heaven or God or any of that stuff. They are only concerned with the moment and, making the Israelites successful and powerful in the world and gaining control of the world. And they obviously don't care about the Mosaic law because they don't practice it. They come up with the Talmudic excuses for why they do not practice their own laws. And the excuses of, oh, well, the temple is under the control of the Muslims, so how are we going to practice our... You don't have that excuse in the Bible. The law doesn't allow for that excuse. So because they don't recognize Christ, and now they're making all these excuses as to why they can't follow their own law, they are devoid of actual religion. They are making up their religion at this point. It's totally fabricated. So the Judaism of today, no matter how orthodox you get, is still just way off the mark from ancient Judaism as is described in the Old Testament. So it's just, it's crazy. It's really crazy. And does that kind of answer your question, Christine? I don't know. Yeah, there are many factions of Jews, as you said. And like you said there, you said nation state. Zionism is like a nation state versus those practicing the religion. Yeah. And just remember that the Khazarians picked up the religion as a veneer that they could wear and say, look, we're Jews, so you Christians and you Jews and you Muslims should all like us. That was the reason that the Khazarian king at that time, and I don't even remember exactly what year that was, or about maybe the 7th, 8th century AD. That's why that king took up Judaism. That's why he did it, is because Judaism was the one religion that all the others agreed with, or at least could accept. If you picked up Christianity, then the Muslims hated you. And if you picked up Islam, then the Christians hated you, and vice versa, and all this other stuff. But the Jews were in the middle, and so the Khazarians picked it up. And they wore it as a mask. They didn't actually care about it or practice it. I mean, they may have taken some of the practices and then merged in blood ritual and all this kind of like pagan stuff with it, which is what I think happened. And then it's the source of really what I think is the Talmud and the Kabbalah, is because the Khazarians got involved and their old pagan religions got merged in with Judaism. And that's why it got so bad, and that it is so bad today, and that we have people of this group living in New York that have tunnels underground where they bring children and do horrible things to them. That's literally the fact. I hope I said that in a way that I won't get banned. There was what was there recently, a sect down in South America somewhere that was practicing pedophilia? I think there was. That doesn't come from Judaism. That comes from the Khazaric, Talmudic, Kabbalic practices that have come through the ages because of these other people that infiltrated Judaism, right? So anyway, I guess that's what I would say. I guess that's an answer. God is kind. You say there's a bunch of them in Florida. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and Joyce, you say there's a reason God called them a stiff-necked people. What I mentioned earlier when I said I'm looking at doing a video on Deuteronomy 32, the Song of Moses. The reason is because it says that. It calls them a foolish people, and it says all these terrible things about them. And I thought to myself when I read that, wow, I mean, Moses literally was at the forefront of the creation and the shepherding of the Israeli people. And he said all these horrible things about them and what was going to happen to them in the future. That's why I wanted to do that as a video. But anyway, so yeah. Austin Blaise, you say, I'm suspect of Messianic Jews. If they loved Jesus, they'd let the former die and just call themselves followers of Christ, but the pride they won't let go of, at least it seems. Yeah, that's a very true statement. Well, and of course, Austin, as you know, and we all know, Christianity allows and encourages them to stick with their Jewish tradition, right? And continue doing their Jewish things. So it's not only their fault, but it's also Christianity's fault for being like, yeah, you believe in Christ, but even though he fulfilled all the law, which is what the Bible says over and over again, you can keep doing the law too. Why not? You know, and so it's like we encourage it. Doesn't make any sense. The Christians, by the way, in the 1st and 2nd century would not have said that. They did not encourage that. So, yeah, very interesting. All right. I think we better move forward. That was a good one. Thank you, Christine. You appreciate that. Oh, boy. Now, this is the one I was getting excited about. Ed Mack. This is a good one. Ed Mack, you said, why would the Bible give the number 666 if numerology means nothing? Let me get my title fixed because that's not fitting on the screen. Let's see. Let's change it to, why would the Bible use numerology? The 666. Okay, that works. Okay. Why would the Bible give the number 666 if numerology means nothing, or it can also mean something to Christianity? Well, I would say this, Ed Mack, first, before I go into my rant on this, because I have a bit of a rant. The Bible obviously uses numbers in a lot of scenarios for lots of different reasons. Well, maybe not that many different reasons, but it uses a lot of numbers. The number 7 represents the earth, really. The number 7 represents the earth because it is the number of days of creation God used to create the earth. And in doing so, he was foreshadowing the 7,000 years of Earth's history that we're now in the end of. And so the number 7 means completion, which is what most scholars say, but they're not actually seeing the fact that that was a prophecy. It was the 7,000 years of Earth's history. So it means the earth and history of the earth. 7 is representative of that. What is the number 12 representative of? Obviously, it's representative of the nation of Israel. Everything about the nation of Israel is in 12s, 12 tribes, blah, blah, blah. 12 disciples. All the disciples were Jews. It's all, every time you see the number 12, it's about the Jews or Israelites, however you want to say it. So there's numbers all through the Bible. The 40 years, it's a waiting period. 40 is always a waiting period. 40, 40, 40. I'm trying to think of others. But anyway, you get my drift. So that's not necessarily numerology per se. I mean, maybe it is. Is it? It's just that God has different purposes, and so he uses the numbers to show those purposes. Now, let's go to the 666 in the Bible real quick. Let's go there. 666. Three score, I guess, is the way I have to search for that. 3 score. No. Yes, Revelation 13, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that has the understanding count the number of the beast. Let me get that bigger for you. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, I wanted to say this. This is the key to this 666 thing. 6, the number 6, what is significant about the number 6 in the Bible? Does anybody know? I'll let you guys think about that for a second. What's significant about just 6 in the Bible? What does that match? Christian, you say man. And why? It's because, of course, man was created on the 6th day of creation, right? Yes, it's the number of man. So 666 harkens back to that. It harkens back to man, okay? Now, let me show you this real quick. Okay, so here's a black cube, right? This is the Kaaba, the thing that the Muslims go to in Mecca once a year, and they all circle it and they pray to it. It's got their gods. What else we got here? We've got black cube sculptures all over the world in different areas of importance to the cabal, the elite. These all are all over the place. What's the significance of the cube? It's actually interesting because depending on how you orient a cube or look at it, it represents the number 666. Why is that important? Why would it be important to these power brokers of the world? Why is it? Now, I know a lot of people will connect this to the Saturn cult, which is something that's actually really hard to parse, really hard to find any good information on online. There's only one real source online that talks about the Saturn cult. So it is the Saturn, by the way. Saturn is a symbol that they use. However, the black cube has significance. And I did hear it said one time. I'm not sure I'm going to remember where I heard this said, but it is absolutely true. Here's another interesting black cube on the head of a Jewish person. The tefillin. They wear a black cube on their head. Why is that? It's interesting. Well, of course, if they're Kabbalists, it makes some sense. But the black cube, referring to 666, all has to do with the material world. Okay, that's really what the black cube represents to these people. It's the materialism. It's the material, physical world. It's kind of like because you've got to realize those Luciferians are focused 100% on the physical world and reality because they have no control over the spiritual world. God kicked Satan out of heaven, okay? So Satan, his whole focus is on, can I screw this world up? Can I screw up the physical world? The black cube is a representation of the physical world, devoid of any spirituality. And so the number 666, of course, being referenced in the scripture, has something to do with this beast that's the goal of the beast, okay, is everything in the physical realm. So there's a lot of information and symbolism that you can tie to this. But generally, not only that, but the number 666 literally, of course, corresponded to, at this time, it corresponded to the name of Nero, Caesar. And so it had multiple meanings, but it was specifically included in Revelation 13 to refer to Nero so that the Christians understood that this was Nero, and or that Nero was at least being controlled by this beast, or was the human output of this beast, possessed, if you will. And so his name in gematria, obviously, and it's not gematria. It's not like this is magical nonsense. Okay, every letter in their language has a specific numeric value. In English, we don't really do that. Okay, but in Greek, it was exactly like that. So their letters have numeric values. So when they said a number, they would put the letters for that number. Okay, the ones that added up to the right number that they were trying to talk about sometimes. And so that was a normal thing for them. It's not gematria, it's not magic, it's not Kabbalah. It's just how they did it. And this was their way. This was the way that this was encoded into this verse. So the Christians knew that it was Nero, but that the authorities in Rome couldn't look at this and say, look, you guys are targeting Nero and you're all going to be crucified now. Okay, so think about that. This was floating around in the first century. And Romans alike, Romans and Jews and everybody else, Greeks alike, were seeing this writing or hearing about it. So if it said the name Nero Caesar, then they would have been killed for that. Anyone who had this writing in their hands would have been killed for it. But because they did it this way, it was a way of obscuring that name and making sure that it was not something they would be killed for. So, again, the beast here, it is the number of a man. The number of the beast is the number of man. And the man's number is 666. So it matches all those things together. Okay, it really means all those things together. So, I don't know. Does that help? I've gone a long way. I've said a lot. And you guys are probably talking about it. Christine, you said 616 is used. Yeah, and I heard that the 616 was in Syriac. And that's why it was used, is because in the Syriac language, whatever all that means, that it had to be changed to match Nero's name. So they changed it in Syriac to be 616, so it would, in that text, also match Nero's name. So that even further underscores that they meant Nero in this case, that he was the man that was being named along with this beast. Right. Austin Blaze, you said that's very smart. Yeah, Deuteronomy 6:8 mentions the hands and forehead, meaning you have given your actions and thinking over to Caesar or the system instead of towards God. Yeah, the mark of the beast, now that's a whole nother topic, and I think I had a video on it, or I have one on it, but it's been a long time. I don't know if I turned that one off because it was so old and I thought it looked stupid. I've come a long way since then, but yeah, there is mention in the Bible multiple times to the hand and the forehead, of course. God tells them to bind the law on their head and on their hand or whatever. There's a time when in Ezekiel, I think, that people are marked in the forehead with God's name, and that angels are told to kill everyone in a city except for the ones that were marked with God's name. And so that kind of thing is apparently a spiritual type of thing. It's a real thing. And I agree with you that it's when you are, and I would use the word worship. If you are worshiping God, you have his name in your head, in the spirit. And if you are worshiping the beast or Satan, you have his name marked upon your soul, if you will. And so, yeah, that's why it's so important to not give yourself over to evil. So I think that's pretty good on that topic. I think that's pretty good. We'll probably go on now. Got a lot still to do here. Christina Shank, I'll just answer your question briefly. You ask about, did I have any updates on the final experiment or my opinion of it? I've been listening to Witsit and I don't get a feeling he's being deceitful. I haven't been listening to Witsit or any of them since then. So I can't say anything further as far as what I've seen, but it is interesting that you say that to me about Witsit. And if he is being honest, then great. I don't really have a dog in the fight, so to speak, on that. But and I also didn't. By the way, that video I presented where I was going over the problematic parts of their journey. The conclusion of that video wasn't that it was all fake or something, but just I was trying to show that, if they were trying to do science, they really did a bad job. They really didn't do us any. they didn't do us any favors. We really don't have anything that we can stand on and say, wow, that's provable science. Like, they didn't do anything like that. So it's just tough. But anyway, that's all I'll say about it, Christina. I'm probably not going to address it much more because it's just such a, I don't know, divisive kind of topic. I just don't care about the whole back and forth. I just don't care. All right. I think we'll go ahead and do the next. We got Deborah Hicks asking, Revelation 22. Let's see here. You say in Revelation 22, oh, it's too big. Doggone it. Hold on. Let's try this. Does that work? Yes, that works. All right. Okay, so in Revelation 22, verse 14 and 15, you said, is there still sin and sinners after the New Jerusalem comes down from heaven? Oh, that's going to be a tough one. That's a tough one. Let's see. I know what I want to say about it, but let me just look real quick. 22, verse 14 and 15. Blessed are they that do his commandments. They have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, murderers, idolaters, whoever loves and makes a lie. You know, Deborah, those statements in verses 14 and 15, you'll notice they come after Jesus Jesus, I think it's the angel actually is talking here. He showed me a pure river of water of life proceeding from the throne and the Lamb. In the midst of it, side of the river is the tree of life, etc., etc. No more curse. They shall see his face. Their name will be in their foreheads. Haha. See? You will have the name of God in your forehead if you are in heaven with him. And there will be no light there, or night there. They need no candle because the Lord God gives them light. And they will reign forever and ever. And he said to me, these sayings are faithful and true. So you realize here in verse 6, he has stopped talking. Okay, he stopped talking about the new heaven and new earth, and anything he was talking about before. So starting in Revelation 21, I saw a new heaven and new earth. He goes on to talk about that. Then he goes on to talk about the new Jerusalem, which will be on the new earth. And he measures it, and the foundations, and what else? The gates will not be shut, etc. Then he goes, and in verse 6, he's finished talking about it. He says, he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true. The Lord God of the holy prophets sent his angel to show his servants the things which must suddenly be done, or quickly be done. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keeps the sayings of the prophecy of this book. And John saw these things and heard them. When I had heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel which showed me these things. So he's obviously finished with his talking about the new heaven and new earth and the Jerusalem, new Jerusalem, or the holy Jerusalem from heaven. Then he said unto me, see thou do it not. That meaning, don't worship me because I'm your fellow servant. This is the angel talking to John. He's saying instead, keep the sayings of this book and worship God. He says, seal not the sayings of the book, for the time is at hand. He that's unjust, let him be unjust. He that is filthy, let him be filthy. He that is righteous, let him be righteous. And he that is holy, let him be holy. So he's saying essentially the judgments of this book are coming upon the earth, okay? This is talking about all the things coming against the nations. And he's saying that the just are going to be punished as such. The righteous will be punished as such, or will be rewarded as such, rather. He says, behold, I come quickly. My reward is with me. And by the way, this word quickly does not always mean quickly. It means suddenly or at once, like surprisingly. So just be aware of that. It's not always just saying, oh, I'm coming tomorrow. It's really a different word in Greek. So, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. Now that's actually talking about the great white throne judgment and reward. Okay. That's exactly what that is talking about. Every man according to his work. That's always a phrase about the great white throne. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, beginning and the end, first and last. That's Jesus saying that, not God. This is Jesus saying that because he was instrumental in creation. He will be instrumental in the destruction, and he will be the one at the end that brings all the righteous to himself. Blessed are they that do his commandments. They have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. Without are dogs. Now, this word without doesn't just mean like standing outside the city. This means excluded, like those excluded. This to me does not necessarily mean that dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, and murderers are going to be standing outside the holy Jerusalem yelling, let us in, let us in. They're not going to, it's not that. By the time this occurs, the great white throne judgment has occurred. What happens there? Well, all the wicked are sent into hell to reap their reward. Okay? They're not standing outside the city on the new earth. No, the new earth is reserved, as I understand it, for the reign of Christ in the new Jerusalem and the saints all there inside and outside the city. So this is simply saying that literally the wicked will not inherit anything. The wicked are without. They're in hell at this point. And says, then it goes on, I have sent my angel to testify you these things in the churches. So that's the way I would say it. So no, I do not think, Deborah Hicks, that there is still sin and sinners on the new earth or in the new Jerusalem after the great white throne judgment. Okay. Now I can't say, now that's a totally, to me, a little bit of a different question as to whether anyone can ever do anything wrong after that point in time. That's a really good question. I don't know if I have any information on that. Like, can someone who's then, let's say 1,000 years down the road, can someone in the new, that's living in heaven with God and Christ, can someone still sin and make a bad decision? I don't know the answer to that question. I have no way to know. I don't know. I just don't know. Christian, I've got your question. Let me see here. That's actually next, Christian, your question. So I'm not skipping it. I just tried to reorder a bunch of things. I've got a bunch to get to here. Gosh, still got a bunch. So let's do yours next then, Christian. I think we're good on this one. Oh, let's see how I can get this on here. Does this fit? No. It's not going to fit. No way. How about this? Go. Ooh, that's so close. So close. Let's do this, and then it all fits. Okay. And I think it's Enmity. Enmity. Okay. So the question you asked, Christian, was, what is the enmity of Genesis 3 between the seed of woman and the seed of serpent? How do we see Jesus and the apostles identifying the enmity in the New Testament? It's a good question. I'm thinking right off the bat, I'm like, what direct mention do we have in the New Testament of the serpent or Satan? I mean, it could really be the serpent or Satan, the devil, all of that. let's read Genesis 3 really fast, and then we'll start from that. Okay, so in verse 15, let's start in verse 14 because it's the end of this sentence. And the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle, above every beast of the field. Upon your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Now, I would challenge this because I think what your question implies is that you believe that the seed of the woman being a general reference to humankind, really, the seed of the woman. You're seeing that as a general reference to humankind, and you're seeing the seed of the serpent as something that relates to the descendancy of Satan himself, aren't you? I think that's correct. And I would challenge that in just a little bit, because you'll notice in verse 14 when God says to the serpent, he says, because you've done this, you are cursed above all cattle and every beast of the field. Upon your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. So we might want to just double check ourselves and make sure that he compares the serpent to cattle and beasts of the field. So is this God talking to Satan, or is he talking to literally the snake or the dragon, if you will? And because in that sense, in just a very practical sense, simplistic, maybe materialistic sense, there is and always has been enmity between humankind and snakes. Just in a very brass tacks kind of way, right? We bruise their heads when we step on them, and they bruise our heel by biting us. So we do need to ask ourselves, there's been a lot of people teaching a lot of things online about serpent seed, and that this is a veiled reference to Satan and his offspring, whatever that means. Some people think it means he secretly had sexual relationship with Eve and produced progeny through the line of, is it Seth? I can't remember. Oh no, Cain, right? And so there's all sorts of stuff being taught about that online, but we do need to kind of pull back the reins a little, I think, and see if maybe this just means a very physical thing about the snake and the humans. And by the way, it is something to think about because we have lots of testimony in ancient history about dragons. I mean, lizards or whatever with arms and legs that, of course, were more like dragons than snakes or anything like that. So we do wonder if this, whatever this serpent was before, that it might have been a different kind of being, that it had arms and legs. It could have maybe been an upright walking thing. Heavens, we don't know. It could have looked like a reptilian humanoid. We don't know what this particular serpent looked like. So I don't know. There's so much to unpack there, really. So I'm just saying that we need to be careful about taking things like this and making them something really big, and then trying to figure out where in the Bible it supports our really big notions of maybe possibly very small things. So let's think more about that. But let's go on and then talk more, I guess, about the New Testament. Does God or Christ speak more about it? Let me see what you guys are saying. Like, Christian, you think it's definitely spiritual. It's definitely spiritual. So you're saying you definitely believe this is God saying that in the curse, he's cursing Satan and his offspring, whatever that means. Is that what I think that's what you're saying? And that he's saying the offspring of Eve, which, most people would then say, oh, that comes down all the way to Jesus Christ, will then bruise Satan on the head, which is, I think that interpretation works. I don't have any writings that tell me that that's exactly, well, I may have some somewhere. Let's just assume that it could be either or, okay? It could be both. So, I mean, Jesus, we don't have to look in the New Testament to know that Jesus bruised the head of Satan, okay? And for instance, when he came to earth, he, for instance, was on the earth. Satan tempted him without understanding that he was the Son of God. Satan was tricked. When Christ was crucified and went down to Hades and broke into Hades, the ruler of Hades, named Hades himself, spoke with the devil, with Satan, saying, how could you be so stupid as to let the Son of God into my domain? There's this whole argument that happens in the book, the Gospel of Nicodemus, where Satan, it's called Beliar and Hades, are arguing over this because Satan did not understand that Jesus was who he was. And that was the reason that, by the way, the apocalypse of Elijah, I believe, is the one that talks about, or excuse me, I think the Ascension of Isaiah is correct. Ascension of Isaiah talks about why Jesus was veiled in heaven when he came down to inhabit his body as a human. He was veiled as he came down through the levels of heaven to then enter the Virgin and be born. And it was because it was a secret. It was a mystery. It was to take Satan by surprise. So if we do view Genesis 3 verse 15 as a prescriptive for what would happen between Christ and Satan, then that absolutely happened. Satan was bruised. He was beaten. He was defeated in a sense. And then he was, of course, chained for 1,000 years. So I would say that that's all the fulfillment of that idea. If that's exactly what Genesis 3:15 is, then it was absolutely fulfilled. But we also have to consider that it could have been also something a little different. My jury is half and half. Like I'm not. It could be both, but it could be one or the other. But absolutely, Satan was, quote, bruised by Christ, if we want to say it that way. Christian, you say Romans explains it. Do you know the chapter? We can go to it. I'm fine with going to it. Let me see if I can find that before you tell me. I don't see it there. Is it Romans chapter 1 and 2? Or chapter 1 perhaps? It might be Romans 1. Because I know that does speak of the times early on. Oh, why did I do that? Romans chapter 1. Romans 8:7, Kirk Ford, you say? Okay, let's try that one too. Romans 8, verse 7. Okay, so this word enmity is in this verse. It says, for to be carnally minded is death, but spiritually minded is life and peace, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. Yes. I mean, I'm not sure that's an exact correlation between what we read in Genesis, but it makes sense. I mean, in a broad context, maybe. I like that, Puckwaji. That's good. Kirk Ford, you say also Ephesians 2:15. Well, let's jump there real quick. Let's see what it's got for us. Ephesians 2:15. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace, that he might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby. That's talking about that's a tough one. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity. Now, he mentions in the previous verses, now Christ, who ye sometimes, but now in Christ Jesus, ye who sometimes were far off, are made nigh by the blood of Christ. For he is our peace, who has made both one, and has broken down the middle wall partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in the ordinances. This is saying literally he abolished the law, which is what separated, what put a partition between us, meaning he's talking about Jews and Gentiles. He's saying Christ, having abolished the law by his death in flesh, he abolished the law, finalized it, finished it. He now has taken down the wall that separated Jews and Gentiles. That's what this verse is talking about. So this to me is a little different than what we were talking about in Genesis 3. But you know, just the using the word enmity as a search across the Bible is probably not going to get us there. See, that he might reconcile both Gentiles and Jews unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby, and came and preached peace to you which were afar off, meaning the Gentiles, and to them that were nigh, meaning the Jews. For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. There are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints. This is about the uniting of Jews and Gentiles under Christ. Yeah. And Christian, you're right that you say, I see another law warring in my members. The commandment is good, but sin deceives through the law. Yes, and the law warring in your members is also the flesh. The flesh is what generally pulls us away from being spiritually minded. The flesh has needs and desires and wants and cravings, urges, whatever you call it, that pull our minds, our spirits away from what we need to be concerned with, which is spiritual things. And so there's a strong connection, I suppose, between the flesh, as this is talking about, the flesh and the law. Of course, as it said, Christ finished the law, and that was by his death was done away with. So anyway, all right, cool. It always worries me when y'all retract messages. Like, what did you say? Was it so bad? All right, guys. Oh, I'm talking about these verses. I'm not showing them on the screen. So sad. Anyway, I was trying to show y'all as I was reading, just to say that everything I just read in Ephesians 2 was like verses 14 through 19, if you will. So anyway, that's a really good passage. I'd love to reread that and refresh my memory on that one. All right, let's move forward. We've got a lot to do yet, and we don't have any time to go. Squiffy Bear, You asked, why was Esau born hairy? Why? Let me find that passage. I want to find this passage. Hairy. Probably not the word used. Maybe it was. Yes, it was. Okay, here we go. The Lord said to her, Rebekah, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 manner of people shall be separated from your bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when the days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. After that, his brother came out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 80 years when she bare them. Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Jacob was a plains man, dwelling in tents. So does this mean that like Esau was a macho guy and Jacob was like effeminate? I'm doing it again. There's the screen. Sorry guys, I keep forgetting to turn on the screen. So yeah, it's interesting that they were twins and Esau comes out all hairy and red. Was he red-haired or was he just red and he had hair? I'm trying to figure this out here. You know, I will say this, Squiffy Bear, am I remembering this correctly? That I believe you have asked me before to do a deeper dive onto the Esau and Jacob topic before. And why did he love one and hate the other? I think that I have been asked to do that. And I feel bad now because I think that was a while back that you asked me for that. Red Raven, you say being a ginger isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't know. I've heard some things about ladies with red hair. Cuckoo. I'm just kidding. Oh gosh, that's funny. You can't help it. That's great. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yes, those crazies. No, that's funny. I feel like what I'd love to do, and I don't know, I don't see you responding, Squiffy Bear. So I may take this as a spank, a true virtual spanking. And I think what I'd like to do is really do a deep dive into Esau and Jacob and really answer some of those questions. You know, we do know that 2 nations came out of these guys, and one was loved and one was hated. There's some really good passages on this that I know I've read before, and I'm thinking to myself, I think I know the answers to some of this, but I can't recall it right now. So I'm going to take this down as a note for myself, and I'm going to put it on my Posty note, which is now full. That one video I want to make is this, and I want it to be about Esau and Jacob. Because right now I don't have an answer as to the why on the hairiness, and why the Bible does take time out to say it, other than it does matter later on because, of course, to get the blessing of his father, because of Rebekah, Jacob puts hair on himself to make him feel like his brother Esau, to steal the blessing. When Esau is too old, or excuse me, Isaac is too old to recognize him by sight. So that does come into play, and that might be why it's mentioned early on. Whether it's actually consequential or not, I'm not sure at this point. But I do want to do more deep dive into this. Okay, so now you're responding. You say, you know, some people link this red hairy trait to the Nephilim. That's true. The giant of Kandahar, by the way, which is a giant that was reported by multiple military men from Afghanistan in the last, I don't know, 6 years or so, maybe a little more than that. When they reported seeing this giant in Afghanistan, having an altercation with him, they said he definitely had red hair. And when we found different skeletons and bones, they've been reported. I'm thinking specifically of ones that were reported in the United States. When people first settled here and started building things and digging up the ground, they found burial sites of these giants in America. And yeah, the giants in many cases had red hair. Other attributes were like multiple rows of teeth, more than 5 toes or fingers on each foot or hand. So there were some of the attributes that people have reported. But yes, there may be even some biblical type texts or scripture type texts that have the red hair thing mentioned. I don't remember right off the top of my head. So yeah, there's a lot of that. But if you would, Squiffy Bear, give me the chance to look at this as a video project. I think I want to do that. I actually have thought to myself many times over the last few months, I want to do that. And you know how things are. Austin, you say yes. Cortez and Magellan both mentioned either giants or giant bones. Yes. There was some explorers that I don't remember which ones by name exactly, but I do have it recorded somewhere that talked about seeing giants on the shore as they were in their ship floating by in South America, and essentially watching them run along the shore as their boat was going by and kind of waving at them, making motions and stuff like that, and saying they were massive individuals. They weren't normal humans. I believe too that there's some that also have record in their journals of spending time living with tribes that had giants as their kings and queens in South America and in America, if I'm not mistaken. So again, I think I've said it before, I need to do a new video on the giants. I really do. I see people asking Anne if she has a prayer request. So please, Anne, if you do have a prayer request, let me know. We would love to pray for whatever it is. I don't see Anne. Oh, there we go. I see you now. You have an unspoken. Oh, it's an unspoken and sensitive prayer request. Okay. I've got it, Anne. We will pray for that during this week, okay? I will get that to our prayer group. Oh, okay. All right. I've got it, Anne. We'll definitely pray for it. Thank you for mentioning that to us. Thank you. Very sorry to hear you're going through that. Stacy Russell, you ask if Esau killed Nimrod. I really don't know the answer for sure. But that is something I'm going to put on my kind of notes here with this one. All right. Mike Jones, you asked about what happens when we die. What happens when we die in this age? The way you said it was, what have I seen in my research as far as what happens to us when we die, being in the age we're in? Is it sleep or paradise or heaven, etc., until the white throne judgment? Mike, I don't think I'm going to spend a ton of time on this. So what I'll tell you about this is that I am undecided on what I think. Which is not a good answer. So I'll just tell you what swims around in my head when I think of this question, because I have the same question. What does happen to us exactly? So there's some writings, according to what we understand of when Christ came and then died and went to Hades, he was the fulfillment of the prophecies given to Adam that the Redeemer would come and get them out of Hades. So we know then by that all people, righteous or unrighteous, good or bad, before Christ came, all people went to Hades to await the Redeemer. So even the righteous, and the book of Enoch talks about that the righteous were in a holding place in Hades that was not a bad place. It was just a place of waiting. They weren't tortured or anything like that by demons. But some of the other bad people were. So anyway. But yeah, the righteous just waited in Hades until the Redeemer. So here's what we've got. And I'm going to, let's see. Is it, I believe it's the book of Esdras or Second Esdras. I think it's Second Esdras. It gives an interesting account of heaven and stuff like that. Let me see if I can find this by any chance. Book of Esdras. And I'll show my screen now. So in the book of Esdras, and I want to say it uses the word quiet when it's describing this. Okay, yes. Second Esdras chapter 7 is what I was thinking of. I got it right. Thankfully, I remembered something. This chapter, by the way, is a question mark to me just a bit, because you'll notice if you have access and you're a member on the Bible Scribe app, in Second Esdras chapter 7, there is a ton of verses, and there's some point at which I think it's around verse 70 or something like that, where if you go online and you look for this writing, in some versions it stops at like verse 70. But in other versions it has additional verses that were left out by some scholars. And I still have not figured out the reason why that is. But I have included in my version all of the verses that are about. And these last like 30, 40 verses of this talk about what happens when death. So you'll see here that Esdras asks God, he says, "If I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, show this also to your servant, whether after death, as soon as everyone yields up his soul, we shall be kept in rest until the times come when you will renew the creation, or whether we will be tormented all at once." So that does to me sound like it's talking about the renewal of creation, the destruction and remaking of earth, okay? So his answer is, "I will show you that also." And he says, for you, let's see. Concerning death, the teaching is, when the decisive decree has gone out from the Most High that a person shall die. So your death is decreed by God, according to this passage. As the spirit leaves the body to return again to him who gave it, first of all, it adores the glory of the Most High. If it is one of those who have shown scorn and have not kept the ways of the Most High, who have despised his law and hated those who fear God, such spirits will not enter into habitations, but will immediately wander about in torment, grieving and sad in 7 different ways. The first, that they have scorned the law of the Most High. The second, that they cannot now make good repentance so they may live. The third, they will see the reward that is set aside for those who have trusted the covenants of the Most High. So they will see the reward of the righteous. The fourth way, they will consider the torment that is laid up for themselves in the last days. Meaning, that sounds like the torment laid up for the great white throne judgment when they are all thrown in the lake of fire. Fifth, they will see how the habitations of others are guarded by angels in profound quiet. So they get to see heaven, but then they are put somewhere else. Okay, this is the wicked. The sixth, they will see how some of them will cross over into torments. The seventh, which is worse than all the others, is they will utterly waste away in confusion, being consumed with shame, and shall wither with fear at seeing the glory of the Most High, in whose presence they sinned while they were alive, and in whose presence they are to be judged in the last times at the great white throne. Okay? Now, it shifts then and says, this is the order of those who have kept the ways of the Most High. They will be separated from their mortal body. During the time that they lived in it, they laboriously served the Most High and withstood danger every hour so they might keep the law of the lawgiver perfectly. Therefore, this is the teaching concerning them. First of all, and by the way, don't get hung up on the keeping of the law. Okay, this is talking about the commandments of God. It's also written to a Jew in a Jewish time period. Okay, this is Esdras, and it's like 300 years before Christ, or 400 years before Christ. So this is Ezra from of course, the Old Testament. Okay, just be aware it's being written to a Jew and for him. But this is the teaching concerning these people, the righteous. First of all, they will see with great joy the glory of him who receives them, for they shall have rest in 7 orders. The first, they have striven with great effort to overcome the evil that was formed with them, so that it might not lead them astray. Second, because they see the perplexity in which the souls of the ungodly wander and the punishment that awaits them. So whether you're wicked or you're good, you're going to see the end result of the other side, so you understand, okay? Which is interesting. The third, they see the witness that he who formed them bears concerning them, that throughout their life they kept the law with which they were entrusted. So this is interesting. This reminds me, and part of my opinions on this are formed from my understanding of near-death experiences and the things that I've seen about those. You'll note when you research heavily into near-death experiences that many people see a life review played out in front of them. They see their own lives and everything they did, and they start to understand, what were the good things, what were the bad things. So it helps you understand God's reasoning for what he's going to do with you. And so this sounds almost like that in verse 94 of 2nd Esdras 7, that you witness you see the witness that Christ has concerning you, meaning here's the things that prove who this person is, that he is the Son of God. The fourth order, that they will understand, the righteous will understand the rest they now enjoy, being gathered into their chambers, guarded by angels in profound quiet, and the glory waiting for them in the last days. So this makes it seem like, and I'll be honest, this is the first time since I did my videos on the Great White Throne Judgment, the end of times, and all that stuff. This is the first time I've reread this passage, so this is really good for me. Because what this is saying to me is, this is definitely pointing at the Great White Throne Judgment scenario. The righteous will be gathered into chambers and guarded by angels in profound quiet, in glory, awaiting the glory for them that's saved up for those times after the Great White Throne Judgment. Remember what the Great White Throne Judgment prophecy is, that when Christ appears in the clouds in heaven, that who will come with him? All those who are in heaven already. The saints will come with him. That's who we're talking about. Everyone who up to that point who has gone to heaven to await this final judgment is going to come with him in the clouds. The fifth order, that they rejoice they have now escaped what is corruptible, meaning life, physicality, flesh, and they will inherit what is to come, and besides they see the straits and toil from which they were delivered, and the spacious liberty they are to receive and enjoy. The sixth, when it is shown to them how their face is to shine like the sun, how they are to be made like the light of the stars, being incorruptible from then on. This should give you some hope. That gives me hope. It gives me excitement and joy to know some of these things. The seventh, which is greater than all that have been mentioned, because they will rejoice with boldness and be confident without confusion. As soon as you release your flesh is gone, confusion stops. Because in the spirit, you will be able to know things. You'll be able to ask a question. It will be answered. This is how it works in the spiritual dimension. You will be glad without fear, for they press forward to see the face of him whom they served in life, and from whom they are to receive their reward when glorified. This is the order of the souls of the righteous, as henceforth is announced, and the previously mentioned are the ways of torment that those who would not give heed to God shall suffer hereafter. So I hope that is, well, that's amazing to me, by the way. I love this passage. I've always liked it when I read it. But this should give you kind of what you were seeking there, I think. Mike Jones. I hope that helps. It goes on, by the way, but I don't want to read any more of it, but it goes on, and Ezra asks, "Will time therefore be given to souls after they're separated to see what you have described to me?" And he says that they will have freedom 7 days. And during those 7 days, they can see all the things of which you have been told. So it seems like the way this is said, that after death, you get 7 days worth of time to see the different parts of heaven and maybe even Hades and all the different stuff. You get a tour, so to speak. Very interesting. It continues on, but we won't read any further today. So thank you. I hope that helps. Yeah, Mike Jones, sure. All right. You know, guys, it's gotten pretty late. Time has gotten away from us. Or me, rather. MK Ryan, I don't think I'm going to get to yours on the removal of the Greek word mellow. And the reason I say that is because I knew at the beginning when you asked this, I have no background on this. So I would need to kind of dig a little. So MK, if you're still listening, I'll check that out when I'm researching this week and see if I can find any more about that. Goddess Kind, you asked about what are my thoughts on the executive order Trump signed against anti-Semitism. Let's talk about that real briefly. So the executive order that Trump signed on anti-Semitism, I did look at this, and I can't remember where I posted it. It was probably on the Telegram channel, on my Telegram channel. I think someone asked about this. But if you read the executive order, and I did read it, actually, it actually says, yes, it mentions the word anti-Semitism. By the way, you need to understand that the word anti-Semitism is not defined in our laws anywhere. So you can't prosecute anti-Semitism if it's not in the laws, okay? So that's one thing you just need to be aware of. But when you read it, you'll note that it says, I won't remember the exact wording. Let me turn off the Bible screen there. I won't remember the exact wording, but it says part of it was the people who protested in the Palestinian riots that we had just a month or two ago when Israel was going into Gaza and, of course, slaughtering the Gazans against all Geneva Conventions, against every law that we have in the world, whatever. That we had these protests in schools around our country. Well, this executive order speaks specifically to those groups. It says that it wants to find out if any of those people broke the law. It mentions anti-Semitism, but it says that what they want to do is prosecute any of those people who broke the law during the protests, okay? So it's not saying we're going to prosecute them for anti-Semitism. It literally says we're prosecuting them for breaking the laws. And since the word anti-Semitism is nowhere in our laws, what they're going to be doing is looking to see if any of those Antifa, Soros bought and paid for, foreigner shills who were in those protests, if they broke the law, he's going to prosecute them. Okay, that's what the executive order is about. So there was one other thing. I'm trying to think. Let me see if I've got that where I can find it. Anti-Semitism. Nope, not there. Hold on. I'm looking a couple places to see if I can find this. I can't find it. Doggone it. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to find what I was, because I did read through the whole thing, and I don't remember the other point. But I just came away, let me just say that I came away from reading that executive order feeling like it had no teeth, according to any anti-Semitic thing, that there was no way they could use it to prosecute anybody for anything anti-Semitic. However, it did give the government a focus, an incentive, a impetus to go after people who broke the law during the Palestinian riots. So that's okay with me, considering they were all bought and paid for actors and they were Antifa. So I don't have much problem with that. You know, I will say that I'm as concerned about you as anyone is about them using the word anti-Semitism in any action or order or anything, because it is, of course, a tripe. It's not true. There's no such thing. It's like, well, I don't hear anyone out there saying, you know, I'm going to start prosecuting all the anti-whiteisms. There's no such thing. The anti-Anglo-Saxonisms, where are those guys? The anti-African Americanites, who are those people? So yeah, I'm as concerned about that as you guys. I think that it's just a total farce, and it's a way of them pushing control upon us, right? However, if things are continually done that mention it but have no teeth and no ability to actually enact anything, then that's not bothering me too much. So I just would say I'm watching, I'm waiting, and I, you know, share you guys' concerns, but I don't think that right now anything's happening that's going to be negative towards anyone who is online saying things. You know, one of the people that I see online all the time on this subject, on the whole, every day, all day long, totally obsessed with it, is Stu Peters. And he's on X, and I do follow his X account because I like hearing some of the things he says, and I think he's way over the top. Like, everything he says has to do with the Jews. And I would like to bring your attention to the fact that he has not been banned from the platform. He's not been stopped from speaking his mind on the platform. He has, I believe, been restricted from getting a blue check mark, and he complains about that all the time. I can't get verified. I can't get my blue check mark, and it's because I talk about the Jews all the time. Maybe that's true. I don't know. But I will just say it doesn't seem like anything real is happening to people that talk very openly about the Jews. Candace Owens is another one. No one's, Trump hasn't come out, Elon hasn't come out, no one's come out saying they can't talk about that. There's just silence. So here's the thing I do see, and you need to be aware of it. You need to recognize from Trump and Elon, there has been utter silence on the Jew topic. There's been no censorship necessarily, but there's been utter silence. And to me, that speaks volumes, okay? And of course, this last week we had Trump over in Israel meeting with Netanyahu. Trump treated Netanyahu like a girl, very degrading the way he treated him. Trump's announcements about Gaza, that he's saying things about going into Gaza and taking it over, that is an absolute slap in the face to Netanyahu and all of Israel. Absolute. And Netanyahu just seems to be taking it, and he seems a little just degraded at this point, which is interesting. So you need to be aware of what's happening. And yes, as you guys are saying, follow the money. Yes, the money is an issue. The money is an issue. You need to recognize that because USAID is cut off, that they have lost so much in the way of funding. Now, I do know that there was a recent sale of arms that we did That's what it is. It's a sale of armaments to Israel, and it was a very big one, yes. However, if USAID is cut off, then a lot of the Mossad's money and Israel's money is also cut off at the throat. And they are scrambling, they are hurting. But there's utter silence from our politicians, meaning Trump and his administration. Utter silence. So just be careful, watch it, wait, and see what happens. That's all I can say. Just watch and wait. Yes, Rick, Yi did blow things up on Friday on X. It was nuts. He just came out of nowhere, didn't he? It was ridiculous. So, oh boy. All right, guys. I think that's going to be about it for today. We've done so much. What did I miss? I missed one more thing. No, I got God is Kind. I just didn't do McKay Ryan. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry about that. And then G Squat, we talked about the moon map, and Terry Barnes, we talked about the Psalms that David wrote but weren't in the Bible that I don't know about. So I think we got everything. I think we did it all, guys. I think we did it. I've been trying lately to do all of the topics, no matter how many there are, and not leave any off. I think that that's a better thing than to just do a portion, do longer segments on that, and then miss some at the end. Because what's happening, of course, as time goes on and we get new people, or some people leave, others come in. That's just how it works. Some people want to do things we've already done, so I can do those a little quicker maybe and go on to other things. So I think it's working out pretty good. I think we're doing a lot here. I think it's really cool, and it's a lot of fun. I would agree with that, Squiffy Bear. I agree. I do. A lot less. A lot less. Well, guys, thank you so much for the time you've invested today, and thank you for being with us. And if you do have any prayer requests that have not been mentioned, we've got a good number that I'm going to post straight to our prayer channel today, and so that we can pray for them through the week. But if there's anything else, please put it in the chat there as we close out. And I just want to say thank you again, guys. I appreciate you guys. And I hope you have a great week. Stay safe. And again, as always, feel free to email me or contact me in any way. I didn't mention it, but on the Bible Scribe app, I had one or two people reach out that said they had trouble registering. And I have fixed the problem that caused people have trouble registering on the Bible Scribe app. I had messed something up. I did it, and I have fixed that problem. So anyone that wants to register should be able to register very easily. All right. AI Rap Legends, I just want to say it's nice to have you. I don't remember seeing you before, so it's good to have you this morning. Glad you joined us. There's a bunch of names on here I'm not sure I've seen many times before. Silent Soliloquy. Appreciate you guys. All right, I'm going to cut out, and I'll give you just a little bit longer on the chat before we close it. Thank you so much for your participation, guys. Bye.